This is Damon Fordham, adjunct professor of history at the Citadel and Charleston Southern University. And I'm going to talk about a problem that hits a lot of people these days, especially in our age of social media. Sometimes you will post something and people will try to draw you into an argument by saying foolish and hateful and ignorant things to kind of get a rise out of you, and you start going back and forth with them down a rabbit hole. Or sometimes you may make a speech somewhere and somebody in the audience will just say something ridiculous and ignorant to draw you again into an argument, and you waste a lot of time going back and forth. Now, there's some people who are very impulsive by nature, and they cannot back down from a challenge when they feel threatened like that, and they'll go back and forth and waste a lot of time and energy on time that can be better spent. But here's the best way that you have to handle that situation. You often have to use this before you use this. Let me give you an example of this. In my book, Mr. Potts and Me, that I wrote back in 2012, I have the story about how the young boy in the story, Lucas, is sitting there with the old man, Mr. Potts, while a drunk man comes by. And the drunk man tries to draw Mr. Potts in an argument, saying, "Man, you know that purple cows fall out of green trees?" And Mr. Potts just looks at him and goes, "Whatever." And so the guy goes, "Man, you stupid. You know good and well purple cows fall out of green trees." And the old man goes, "Yeah, what else is going on?" And he keeps trying to draw him into this, and the little boy is wondering, why is he sitting there taking all this? And the drunk becomes very profane in his language. And the old man said, "Okay, you said what you got to say. Bye, get off my property." And that's the end of that. So the little boy says, "Now, wait a minute, Mr. Potts, why didn't you talk back when the man was saying all these terrible and hateful things?" And Mr. Potts in the story says, "Now, let's say he got up there and said, 'You know, purple cows fall out of green trees.' And I said, 'You lie, they don't fall out of green trees, you must be ignorant.' And he goes, 'Yeah, purple cows fall out of green trees.' And I would say, 'Man, you stupid, you know they don't fall out of green trees.' Now, if somebody was to walk by and hear me arguing with this man about purple cows and green trees, they wouldn't say, 'Man, look at the old smart Mr. Potts telling that old drunk off.' They'd say, 'Man, look at those two fools.' You see, if a wise man argues with a fool, you cannot tell one from the other. So the wise man has to maintain their peace, say what they have to say, and keep it moving." And I learned that lesson many years ago. I was in the gym over here in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, the Moultrie Gym, and some kids were giving me a hard time, as was often the case in those days. Well, my cousin, Coach Marion Brown, who is today a coach at Baptist Hill High School in Edisto Island, South Carolina, he was watching all this, and he says, "Come here, Damon, remember this. A wise man does not argue with fools." So whenever you're on social media or any place and somebody's talking a whole lot of foolishness, if you respond to them, it just fuels them. That's what they want. Don't give them the satisfaction. Just say what you have to say. Don't respond to anything else they say, and keep it moving before people look at your post and look at you at a lecture and say, "Look at those two fools going back and forth." And you don't want that. This is Damon Fordham.